So I talk a lot, I do a lot of speaking, and I do a lot of speaking in the web world, and everybody talks about social media. You know, it was called Web 2.0 a couple minutes ago, and I'm sure it'll be called media in a few minutes, so I don't really need to define it. But everybody always comes up and talks about how it's community driven, and you've got to involve people, and it's about listening, and then they give a 1-hour PowerPoint presentation, ask no questions, and get off stage. So my real goal would be to do as much Q&A today as possible, because obviously you guys know what you want to hear answers to much better than for me to shoot globally or from different directions. I guess what I'm driven by is the fact that we are very bad at seeing cultural shifts, really bad at it. And we're living through a ginormous cultural shift right now. You know, I'm not so romanced by Twitter. I'm not so addicted to Facebook. How many people in this room, let's be really obnoxiously honest, and no half-assed arms, I want full arms in the air. How many people in this room think Twitter's stupid? Nice. How many of those people think it's stupid for business? Raise your hand. Okay. How many people think Facebook's stupid for business? Raise your hand. Okay. So, here's what I think about that. I think about it from an entrepreneurial standpoint. I think that way too many people in society draw lines in the sand. And what I pay attention to is cultural shifts, how to take advantage of them. I launched WineLibrary.com in 1997. Everything I hear about Twitter and Facebook and social media are the same debates I heard back then. In '97, people made fun of my dad for allowing me to build a website and spend the money I did on it, because why would we want to let our competition know our prices? That was a heavy debate. Or that we were going to get cherry-picked for just Opus One and Santa Margarita at cost, and that was a dumb business model. Or why would you put a catalog on the internet? Because people thought it was a catalog, not a business. And so I see a lot of parallels to that moment, and then blogging, and now, you know, these social tools. How many people in this room, without lying, said, I will never get a Facebook account? Raise your hand. Higher, just real quick.
I said I would.
How many of those people have a Facebook account? Raise your hand. Not bad, that was, you're being honest, I appreciate it. What I think is funny is that there's people who ran around the world 10 years ago and said they weren't going to get a cell phone because they didn't want people contacting them when they wanted to, and they didn't want to be available all the time. When people used to sit on an airplane, the person next to them was smoking a cigarette. When kids got out of hand in Toys R Us, they got punched in the mouth. You know, things change. Sometimes. That one always gets a good cheer. People are like, I still do that. And that's what I guess I think about. You know, I'm not so romanced by Twitter or Facebook. They're tools. You know, Twitter is a crayon. Facebook's scissors. But there is no way that if you're a business, if you're trying to market, if you're trying to promote, if you're trying to convert in 2010, that you can dismiss something like a Twitter when they signed up 60 million users last year. Or when 1.3 million people a day sign up for Facebook. That's a real number. You know? And what's even more fascinating is that the way I built Wine Library from 98 to 2005, from 4 to 60 million in sales, was spending lots of money in traditional advertising. You know, I bought full-page ads in the Wine Spectator, and I did a lot of direct mail, and I bought ads, you know, full-page ads, double-trunk ads in the New York Times on Wednesday in the dining in section. It's what I did. It's what everybody did. It's where the market was. And by the way, you know, and everybody's giggling, I'm still all for traditional marketing. I don't give a shit about social media. I give a shit about eyeballs. And wherever they are, that's where I want to be. If people still looked up in the sky for smoke signals, I'd be on the top of this building right now going. So, you know, I did traditional marketing for Crush It. There was taxi cabs running around in a city with ads for it. I had billboards in New Jersey for it. I just negotiated the price that I thought was fair. That, to me, is the shift for me, because for the 8 years that I spent $4.6 million in traditional media, and for the last 4 years of building my personal brand in Wine Library TV, and spending really zero, I understand the difference. And that doesn't mean that social media is the only way to go, but it's awfully attractive. It's difficult to not understand that anybody in this room who's taken a marketing class, I'm sure several people have, when you look at the numbers of what word of mouth converts in our society, you look at all the different reports over the last half decade, you're looking at 72, 76, 81, 70% conversion rates. And it's attractive. You know, word of mouth closes. If your mom tells you this or your friend tells you this movie was good and you can afford to buy it, you will buy it 7 out of 10 times. Meanwhile, when you look at all the data, and who knows if it's right, but it's lots of it out there and people pay lots of money for it, you know, traditional marketing closes at 12%, you know, 14, 11, $500 billion industry. And so you start saying to yourself, what's the culture shift? What's happening? What's happening is we're about to live in what I like to think of as the thank you economy. And we're going to live under small town rules, because what's happening is we're connected in a way we've never seen before. It's really fascinating. Bruno. How many of you guys know the movie Bruno? Heard about it? Living in New York, you probably saw every bus stop ad, every taxi top. I mean, I was turning on my faucet and Sacha Baron Cohen's I mean, it was everywhere. They spent a fortune on it. Opened on a Wednesday night, had a huge opening, 40-something million. The next day was the biggest drop-off in cinema history. There are countless movies sitting on the shelf right now because of Bruno this last spring, because everybody walked out of the theater and said it sucked. And word of mouth travels real fast now. See, what Hollywood always knew was it took a good 2-3 weeks for it to really travel, and in that 2 or 3 weeks, if you threw enough money at it, promotion-wise, and did enough, you know, appearances on Conan and Leno and this and that, you would be able to convert and make it work. They don't live in that reality anymore. And so I think that's fascinating, and I think that that's how I approached Crush It. I wrote a wine book before Crush It, and my publisher told me not to promote before. Make sure you don't go on TV before. You know, don't talk about it. And I, you know, wanted to respect their expertise, even though, in my gut it didn't feel good. I didn't want to be a punk about it, and so I kind of just went along with it. I wrote a wine book first, knowing that I wanted to write a business book, and I always like to learn, so I kind of used it as a learning process, and I think it hurt the book. I started promoting Crush It 7 months before it came out. I wanted to load up on the pre-sales every day. Why not? I think that there's a lot of different ways to go to market with product. I'm very proud of the fact that I didn't really, outside of after the launch doing the billboard and the bus stop ads, because I bartered them, I didn't spend money on it. And that's where the thank you economy comes in. I made almost as much money gambling about my book's success as I did in my advance. A lot of people thought the book wouldn't do well, and I made a lot of bets that it would open in the top 5 New York Times bestseller list. Lots of big money bets, which just made me very happy because people were honest and paid me. So that's a good thing. But most people didn't think the book was going to do well because other social media experts have written books and they didn't do well. Or because my fan base, internet users, who I've given free content to, all 800 episodes of Wine Library TV, all 100 videos on GaryVaynerchuk.com, all the keynotes that probably have 60% of the guts in this book, they weren't going to spend money because that consumer is not used to spending money because they get everything for free. The reason I felt strong enough to make the bet was because that was the reason I knew that they would buy the book. I knew they wouldn't just buy one, I knew they'd buy 3 or 4 because they were going to buy it as a thank you for the 800 videos of Wine Library TV and the 100 videos of GaryVaynerchuk.com and the 15,000 @replies that I've done and the thousands, tens of thousands, and hundreds of thousands of emails I sent out last year. See, if I was signing authors, I would never, ever, ever sign an author that wasn't willing to work their